Meet the dog they're calling Lucky. A nervous little puppy, but deep down, she's a fighter. Lucky was found yesterday along with 6 siblings in bushland near Kurri Kurri, having been bashed and left for dead. 5 of the bull Arab crosses had already passed away. Another died a short time later.
Speaking personally and speaking for sort of the nurses who've been helping me with this case throughout the day, we've all been quite affected by it. It's not an easy thing to go through.
Lucky still has signs of head trauma, including blood around the eyes and nostrils. But after she's been monitored for a few days, the RSPCA will make sure she goes to a good home.
Originally this morning she was sort of quite scared and quite dull, but with puppies we've sort of offered her some food and she's definitely perked up a fair bit.
The RSPCA is investigating the incident, and if the person responsible is found, they could be facing up to 5 years in jail. A red Holden Commodore was spotted at the scene by the witness who reported the incident to the RSPCA. The organisation is desperately pleading for more information to find whoever's responsible.
If you do find yourself in a situation where you can't care for sort of a big litter of puppies like that, certainly we always accept any sort of situation like that. You can surrender the puppies to us. In terms of options, this person's probably taken the worst one they could have.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
It's a scheme tailored for tough times.
We understand it's difficult. We are here to help. We have some programs in place.
Hunter Water today announced a partnership with a variety of welfare agencies to put in place a $300 credit for customers struggling to pay their water bills. Once a customer has qualified, interest charges will be suspended to protect them from debt collection or water supply restrictions that would normally apply.
If those of us out there trying to pay a bill struggle, it is embarrassing. We feel we've failed in some way. It's important to recognise that it's not that uncommon. It happens to us from time to time.
Maria Hatch from Hunter Valley Project says the company receives around 30 calls a week from people struggling to pay utility bills.
They don't even open the letters because they know that they can't pay them. They've got no ability.
The downturn in the mining industry has also hit hard.
Someone who's lost their job and goes on New Start allowance from settling gets $490-something a fortnight. That pays nothing. It wouldn't even feed you for a fortnight these days with the cost of food.
The scheme was today endorsed by the Newcastle Lord Mayor, who also remains committed to a proposed 46.9% rate hike.
You know, my job is to make sure council is financially sustainable in the future and also protect services and deliver for this community.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Brad Webb spent a hellish 14 days trapped 925 metres underground during the Beaconsfield mining disaster in 2006. Today at the Hunter Valley Mining Show, he offered an insight into his harrowing experience.
Well, I want to talk at this one because we've got community. We've got to try and bring a community together. We were lucky in Beaconsfield that the community was brought together, unfortunately, through a tragic event. We haven't got a tragic event here. We've just got a community and a mining community that we've got to mesh together.
He was supported by one of the people involved in his famous rescue, Singleton-based mines rescuer David Connell.
I'm disappointed it's taken 9 years to meet Brand. He's a terrific guy. The first time I saw him was as he tagged out of the cage at Beaconsfield. He piloted an ambulance and we jumped on a plane and haven't seen him since. So it's great to reunite and share some stories.
The show, with its 80 exhibits and product demonstrations, is part of the 3-week-long Hunter Coal Festival. Organisers say it's about trying to create more harmony between Upper Hunter residents and the mining industry.
Well, great way for people who perhaps don't know the industry to get along and have a bit of a look and, you know, get a bit of an insight to it.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
Well, whereabouts are we on the map, do you reckon?
About here.
They were the brothers who travelled all over the countryside. Their TV films seen by millions of Australians.
All over the countryside, Australian brothers.
The Leyland's first documentary, Down the Darling, was made in 1963. Mike was NBN's first news cameraman, brother Mal a photographer at the Newcastle Sun. For the next 4 decades, Mike and Mal and their families brought the outback indoors, filming stories across the country and overseas.
Mike Leyland, the cameraman, wants to film the wet. Mike's brother Mal and his wife Lorraine will record the sounds along this.
But the stories behind the lens tested both family and friendships. Those remarkable days are detailed in a new book, Still Travelling, by Mal Leyland. In Newcastle last night for a talk and book signings, Mal and Lorraine Leyland reflected on a unique time spent behind and in front of the camera. For Mal, the enormous success of the Leyland brothers' films was due to a simple approach.
They were fundamentally honest. We tended to film things as we saw them. We had an enthusiasm for everything we saw, and we wanted to get involved with the people, no matter what their walk of life or what they were doing.
While Still Travelling documents filmmaking and adventure, it's also an honest look at life lived to the full.
I had to put in the warts and all of the good bits and the bad bits, otherwise you're not being honest, and I felt that was also important.
For Lorraine, a new kind of journey awaits.
We always went and filmed everything we saw. Now I'm looking forward to putting the camera away and just sightseeing like everyone else.
The journey continues for Mal and Lorraine. The promise of an undiscovered country beckons.
Our view is that this country would need 4 or 5 lifetimes to see it all, and we're determined to pack as much of it in as we can. We're going to get out there and keep being on the road.
Wild they may be, but these 2 African wildcats, or servals as they're also known, are welcome additions to the Hunter Valley Zoo. Looking like little cheetahs, they're the zoo's first African cats, and tomorrow a public debut is on the cards.
For us, it's a bit of a stepping stone to getting big cats here ourselves, so keep an eye out in the future for something a little bit bigger than Nia here.
With a bit of bribery, 9-year-old Nia is showing signs of settling into her new home. Today she was taking measure of the surrounds and unsettling the neighbours. In the wild, servals usually hunt rodents and birds, but meerkats are also on the menu. 6-year-old Amiri is the zoo's male serval. Now he's a lot bigger and more aggressive than Nia, so he's not quite ready to leave his sheltered enclosure just yet, but the zoo does hope that within the next few weeks he'll be out there in the public enclosure mingling with Nia. Until then, this feisty feline will be kept well away from his smaller female friend. But keepers hope it won't be too long before they become an item.
We're planning for next year to start a breeding program with these 2, which will be very, very exciting.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
I don't really want to talk about individuals. I've had probably 6 direct contacts during the week from some very talented Australian coaches.
The WPL is ready to roll with some new clubs involved. Warners Bay, Wallsend and South Wallsend have been added to form an 8-team competition.
They were selected because they've got huge junior bases. We did cop some criticism initially about having 3 new clubs in, but we had no doubt that Wallsend and South Wallsend had the capacity to enter the competition.
Warners Bay captain Charlotte Clementson is confident her side will perform well in the top division.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of talented players this year, so I think it will be interesting to see how we go. I think we're going to be definitely in top 4 this year.
Defending champions the emerging Jets have dropped out as Northern New South Wales football look to develop the side elsewhere.
No Jets, that's right. Look, with our elite programs, our responsibility is to provide the best competitive opportunity possible, and the Sydney competition offers that.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
The Provincial Championship qualifying races have already been a big hit on regional tracks across New South Wales. Adding one to Newcastle's Newmarket Handicap meeting has created even more interest in the day.
It's added another element for us for our autumn carnival, but it's generated a lot of interest, and that interest will then flow into Sydney on the 11th of April when the finals run for a $300,000 purse.
Chris Lees already has Selectify in the Provincial Championships final at Randwick after it finished second at Wyong last week. He's nominated 7 runners for Wednesday's qualifier. On the same day, the likes of Gay Waterhouse and the Snowden brothers will be in town for the Group 3 Newmarket Handicap, where Lees will saddle up 2 horses.
Fine Bubbles won the Tibby Stakes last year. If she can get a bit of form, she's probably been searching for a bit of form lately, but if she can find something on a local track, who knows, she might hopefully get a place or better.
Meanwhile, Melbourne Cup winner Protectionist, also from the Lees stable, has drawn Barrier 3 for Saturday's $1 million Australian Cup at Flemington.
After a night in custody, Nathan Thompson appeared in East Maitland Local Court, pleading guilty to 4 charges of animal cruelty. Police say 11 Bull Cross puppies were offered for sale online last week, but when they didn't sell, were given to Mr Thompson. On Wednesday, he drove 7 of them into bushland near Curry Curry before hitting them in the head with a rock. Only one, now named Lucky, survived. He also admitted to disposing of another 4. After being granted bail, he left court lashing out at the media, alleging he was told to kill the puppies. Police and the RSPCA, however, believe he acted alone.
That's our understanding at this stage, yes.
Mr Thompson has agreed to an order which prevents him from owning or purchasing an animal for the next 10 years. He'll return to court to be sentenced on April 28. Animal welfare advocates say they're sickened by the incident.
He had a choice and he made a really bad choice. There is no reason why you should punish an animal like that.
Authorities have praised social media, saying it's had a significant impact on their investigation. Mr Thompson faces a maximum penalty of 5 years behind bars. Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
The Lasso Gowrie Hotel has been Ian Lobb's labour of love for 23 years, but since the Railway Street crossing was closed, his business has suffered.
There's no passing trade anymore through the day, there's no cars going past. It was a main artery and it's closed, stopped dead.
Workers would often wander across the tracks for lunch. Now Ian says he has to rely on the hotel's loyal night patronage to get by.
We survive at a cost.
It's a sentiment shared by other business owners. Peter Johnston runs a cafe down the road from the now deserted Newcastle station. Since the train line was cut on Boxing Day, he's noticed fewer people dropping by.
There's a lot of staff working at the train station that aren't there anymore. There's definitely seems to be quieter in the streets.
Anne Cameron says if it wasn't for the support of surrounding businesses, she wouldn't have a job.
It's really your foot traffic going to and from the trains that we miss, that we are feeling, and that I don't think they realise how busy Civic Station was.
But there's a level of optimism amongst the uncertainty. A promise of big infrastructure spending has given many businesses hope.
Hopefully, in 2 years' time, the government have said that the station will be there and we'll get a walkover, so we have to survive till then.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
The government is being sneaky and tricky about whether or not this is government and Crown land.
Celebrity Solstice by name, and in Newcastle she's got the status to match. The biggest ship to ever enter the harbour made a return appearance, and while Mother Nature wasn't exactly playing nice, the luxury cruiser's 2,850 passengers didn't seem to mind.
We're just going to do an amble around and have a look at this, that, and check on what's happening up here now.
The big ship is one of 3 to visit Newcastle Harbour in just 5 days, bringing with them some 7,000 passengers. This year, the cruise industry is expected to inject $17 million into the Hunter's economy.
To have 3,000 people in one day come off it, spend their money, but more as importantly, take home the message that Newcastle and the Hunter is here and is welcoming them.
And while the city's face is changing, so it seems our opinions.
It's certainly changed a lot from what it used to be. It looks really good.
A lot bigger than I thought it was, to be honest.
Hunter Tourism hopes it'll only boost the case for a permanent cruise ship terminal.
There is really only one place for them, and that is where it is. And we have to build the infrastructure around that.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
It was a statement that says a lot about the atmosphere around the Knights camp post Wayne Bennett.
It's just been a different vibe around the club in the last couple of months compared to the last couple of years.
Today, Newcastle forward Corbin Sims signed a 2-year contract extension, and it was the change in coaches that sealed the deal.
As soon as Rick Stone got appointed as head coach again, I thought, yes, this is going to be the best thing for the club.
Buddy's focus is now on tomorrow night's clash with the Cowboys in Townsville and the forward battle that could be the difference between winning or losing.
They've got obviously Matt Scott, James Tarmac coming to the bench, Jason Tomalolo, just to name a few players there, and it's just going to be another test for us, and I reckon our forward pack's going to be up for the challenge.
And this was a sight all Knights fans wanted to see. Kurt Gidley boarding a bus bound for the airport after the captain missed last week's first round victory over the Warriors through injury.
It'll be good to get him back out there just to sort of stable the ship at the back. He's a good fullback, he's a good utility wherever you want to put him. He's going to be a great addition to the team.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
I think if you look at Kantarowski's performance last week against Janko, certainly set pieces, did a terrific job on him. And Ben's a big, bulking type of a kid anyway, and he's not going to be somebody that backs down from the challenge.
Already home to one of the biggest BMX clubs in Australia, soon it will be home to one of the best tracks. A state government grant of more than $493,000 will see a new facility built. In October, the current track will be bulldozed and a new surface put in place, which includes a 5-metre high start ramp that will bring the course up to international standard.
The track layout and the track design, there is international specifications on the style of start hill, the profile, and on widths of tracks. We'll be putting the track on the same footprint, but essentially we will reverse the direction of the track.
The end result will give the club a greater chance to host major events in the future.
This will definitely attract at least national titles. Currently, we are unable to run national titles because of the track layout.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Few but feisty, especially since learning the Awabakal Land Council's claim on the inner city rail corridor has been rejected.
We will appeal it, there's no two ways about it.
Minister for Lands Kevin Humphries refused the claim on the grounds the corridor was not vested in Her Majesty when it was lodged. It's raised questions about when government land is and isn't considered Crown land.
We believe that the ownership of the rail is still in government hands.
Labor's Tim Krakenthorpe has been criticised for accusing the state of trying to circumnavigate the law. A spokesperson for the minister labelling the MP's understanding of the Crown Lands Act as embarrassing.
This government is disregarding large parts of this Transport Act. If the minister thinks I don't know my legislation, I put it back to him that this government is ignoring its own legislation, which has been proven in court.
It's understood Hunter Development Corporation took ownership of the corridor early this year. The minister's office says property owned by government departments isn't Crown land, so doesn't come under the Aboriginal Lands Act. But rail supporters say the debate could have been avoided if the Land Council hadn't been bypassed in the first place.
Consulting with the Aboriginal Land Council is just one of those things that you need to do with development projects.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
Four weeks ago, we had 0 in the World's Greatest Shave sponsorship page, and I think this morning I had nearly $9,000, so that's been phenomenal.
A disappointing last start didn't deter punters from getting on their favourite. Chris Lee's horse sat midfield for much of the 2,000 metre race, and as the field headed for home, others took the limelight. The former German stayer had to settle for third last. After winning the Kira Team's challenge in 2014, the Merriweather Surfboard Club is back on the Gold Coast in a bid to defend the title. Travis Lynch was making the most of early conditions with this high-scoring wave, but in the end, he had to settle for second.
We got a wave pretty early in the heat, and it was not a bad wave, so I was feeling good. Went back out, waited, and got a really good wave. But yeah, the last turn was, it was a pretty big section. I just come off, so that was a bit of a mistake, and I guess that cost me the win.
Merriweather goes into the final day in equal second position, 2 points behind leaders Byron Bay. Meanwhile in Tamworth, the State Cup Oztag tournament saw 15 teams from across the Hunter take part. The Lake Macquarie Under-20s are through to tomorrow's finals after defeating Fairfield City 15-3. Michael Kane, NBN News.
I was talking to someone in the club the other day and we didn't realise it only ever been won once, so it's a tremendous effort from the boys and credit to all the blokes that played throughout the year, and hopefully we can take that momentum into the finals.
Loved ones met in Kurri Kurri's main street today to pay tribute. Flowers lined the pavement, marking the place where a young life was tragically cut short. Police say the 17-year-old was driving along Lang Street at about 1:30 this morning when he lost control of his car.
That vehicle has gone through a roundabout. It's collided with a power pole. It's then collided with a electricity box, and it's also then collided with an awning from the shop.
Efforts to revive him were unsuccessful. The road between Hampden Street and Main Road was closed for a number of hours while investigations took place. Friends and family of the Year 12 student have taken to social media to remember him. The crash has prompted a warning from police.
This is a reminder that these tragedies do occur and they do affect young people and young drivers on our roads, especially given this time of the morning. So it's a warning to all drivers to be responsible.
Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
The aftermath of an early morning ram raid.
About 4 a.m, a bobcat's been used to enter the shopping centre and then do damage and take away an ATM machine.
Thieves had actually dragged 2 machines out of the centre, but only made off with one, leaving the Newcastle permanents behind.
We do understand that they probably loaded a machine onto a utility, so we're looking for a white utility with an aluminium tray back and then left the area.
Police believe the bobcat, which was used in the ram raid, was stolen here from Coates Hire in the early hours of the morning. The vehicle was abandoned at the shopping centre, and forensic police have now taken it as they search for more clues. Security camera footage is also being reviewed by police.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot to go on from the CCTV, but we will certainly be looking at that.
Officers are appealing for any witnesses to contact them.
We would call from anyone from the community who may have information about this incident to come forward. We do understand that the bobcat had been stolen from a nearby business, the bobcat that was used, and anyone who might know about that too could come forward and give us some information.
Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
That's the whole message of today, is to de-sex your pets. You know, if everyone out there de-sexed their pets, we wouldn't see unwanted animals ending up dumped or, in that particular case, brutally murdered. You know, it could have so easily been avoided if people got their animals de-sexed.
It's attracted some of the biggest names in Australian country music. The Campfire Festival was created after CMC Rocks moved to Queensland and is about getting together with friends.
It's sort of about feeling relaxed, homely, intimate, and just having fun. So that's the whole spirit.
As well as celebrating homegrown talent.
Friday night we had Casey Chambers, the McClimates, finished with Shannon Knoll, and he was brilliant. Been such a fan for so long, it was great to see him.
Noel performed his 2004 hit Drive, which had the crowd on its feet. While the heavens opened this morning, the die-hard fans weren't deterred, supporting Curry Curry locals Rough Diamonds. Festival organisers hope to make it an annual event and have been encouraged by positive feedback from revellers and musicians.
The crowd numbers have been building. We're hoping for a bit over probably 2,500 this afternoon or this evening for John Butler Trio, who closes the show.
The event wraps up later tonight. Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
The idea is to show the public the difference of technology between the bygone era and to the current era now, when you see modern vehicles that are totally different to what they were years ago.
Newcastle's all-time leading try scorer almost delivered the perfect start. Against the run of play, Thurston and Lowe put the Cowboys in front. The home side doubled its advantage despite plenty of looks by the video ref. Beau Scott was in trouble for a hit on Thurston before JT copped an accidental knee from Jeremy Smith. The Cowboys star recovered to make it 14-0. Shortly before half-time, the Knights tried something different as Mullen kicked for Uarte. A few passes later, Newcastle was on the board. Houston went on report for his tackle on Thurston before the Cowboys' co-captain was penalised for a hit on Uarte. The Fijian flyer returned to action by finishing off a desperate play. The Knights had momentum and were soon back on level terms. Tyrone Roberts then put Newcastle in front, but North Queensland had a chance to tie the game after full time. Post-game, the Cowboys were furious with the treatment of their star halfback.
There's no secret you try and pressure other teams' halves, but they certainly pushed the boundaries tonight.
Years ago, if that sort of thing happened, your teammates would deal with it on the field, and that's the way it was. But they've clearly wanted to go in a direction where that doesn't happen anymore.
Oh, look, I think Jono competes hard, and I think it's our job to compete hard. That's the game.
The player clean-out at the Jets continues to haunt the club and its fans. Having gone more than 280 minutes without a goal, the visitors created few chances in the first half. A major defensive blunder allowed Melbourne to double its advantage within 90 seconds of the restart. According to statistics, Newcastle is the worst second half team in the A-League. A new face tried to change that. At the other end, the home side almost made it 3. It didn't take long for Melbourne to find the target. City wasn't done yet as Newcastle closes in on the worst goal difference in A-League history. Having orchestrated the removal of 5 established players, Phil Stubbins is now lamenting a lack of experience in his squad.
You know, we've got a small group and pool of players now that we're trying to pick through week in, week out. I think credit goes to Melbourne City, who obviously needed to win today. They did that.
It may look like an ordinary class, but these Year 5 students are learning more than meets the eye.
So it's about students being aware of all of their options when they finish school. What really made the students think about the importance of reading and the importance of school in general.
Students, both past and present, say it's helped them think about their future.
It has encouraged me to be the first person in my family to go to uni.
Not only is it helping primary school children, but university students who help teach the programs are also learning a thing or two.
Being able to come and do these different programs that we offer, I can learn how to communicate, with different age groups.
To watch the full story or get your school involved, head to our website and we could be coming to your school.
I'm Zachary Hunter.
And I'm Ellie Martin.
I'm reporting to you
for NBN News Junior Journos.
Labor putting on a show of strength. The Shadow Roads Minister was flanked by the party's candidates as he announced plans to spend $65 million on the next stage of the duplication of Nelson Bay Road, an area Kate Washington claims has been ignored by the Premier.
He's making Hunter-wide announcements and Port Stephens is not even getting a mention.
$30 million will also be spent on planning the Singleton bypass. The projects are part of a $303 million package.
This is a fully costed, fully funded and fully deliverable plan for Hunter roads and infrastructure.
Labor will match the first 7 projects announced by the Coalition last month, including a $7 million upgrade of the New England Highway at Rutherford, saying its plan doesn't come at the expense of the electricity network. In Mayfield today, the Coalition focused on education. The Supported Students, Successful Students program aims to prevent bullying and improve academic results.
A 45% increase in school counselling dollars provided to schools.
While Labor has promised a high school for Medowie, the Minister argues it's not necessary.
The advice from the department is that we don't have sufficient demand yet to build an additional high school.
Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
It doesn't get much more dramatic than what the seat of Newcastle has seen in the last 12 months. Explosive revelations at the ICAC saw former Liberal MP Tim Owen's political career go up in flames, thrusting the electorate into a by-election in October. Labor's Tim Krakenthorpe won the seat. His biggest rival, former president of the Hunter Business Chamber, Karen Howard, who at the time ran as an independent. Now it's round 2, and this time Karen Howard has the backing of the Liberal Party and the major task of restoring trust in the party.
I'm about a clean, fresh face for the Liberal Party in Newcastle. I only joined the party in the middle of December. I don't think any political party can sit in a glass house these days.
At the by-election, Mr Krakenthorpe only won by about 4,000 votes against Ms Howard, a result that doesn't appear to be worrying him.
Certainly Karen was independent and stood very strongly on being an independent, but, that's certainly gone. She's no longer an independent.
Of course, the biggest issues facing the electorate are the cutting of the rail line and the city's revitalisation. Not surprisingly, their opinions are poles apart.
My number one priority is the delivery of light rail to the City of Newcastle. The Premier's promised it.
Look, I think people are really upset about the way the government's gone about this. They've made a very political decision to do as much as they can before the election.
Both have also pledged to fix this: the much-maligned Adamstown rail crossing. The Greens are also for keeping the rail line and shouldn't be underestimated at this election. Representing the party is Michael Osborne. At the by-election, he recorded the best result ever for the party in the electorate.
Yeah, people are very positive, and I guess they see in the Greens not only a party that has integrity and stands up for the community, but a party that has vision.
To hear from other candidates running for the seat of Newcastle, visit the NBN News website. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
He's the rubbish warrior, passionate about protecting native bushland. And today, Steve Shotton took us to a new illegal dumping site he's found near Pelham, containing piles of household garbage, building waste, even asbestos.
Like-minded individuals within the forward driving community, we're all the same. We're sick of this, we're fed up. And I've got 3 young children, and it's important to me that we hand over the country and the world in a better state than what we found it.
Spurred into action, he's organising a clean-up event for next Sunday.
Cessnock Council's come on board and they've agreed to waive the tip fees and that sort of thing. And we're hoping if we can get some volunteers on Sunday morning to meet at Pelham at Heppen Street, we can hopefully get some of this out of the area.
Steve also wants this 1980s campaign slogan reintroduced. Plus more community education.
People said on social media, blame the councils for the exorbitant tip fees. The councils give free passes. Cessnock Council, Newcastle Council, 2 free passes a year. There's no excuse for this.
His Facebook video of a shocking amount of rubbish at Beresfield was seen by hundreds of thousands in January. NBN News returned to that site today. The garbage is yet to be removed. Newcastle Council, as well as Roads and Maritime, have agreed to clean it up. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
An exception was made of this land to allow a function centre, and nobody knows how that happened. Due process wasn't followed, the community wasn't consulted.
In 2016 we got the Olympics, and this is the first part of the qualifiers, so it's very important for myself, and obviously to play for your country again is a a massive honour. Yeah, I think I've been pretty consistent this season. Obviously lacking in a few areas in terms of goals and things like that, but in terms of overall performance, I think I've done quite well.
Preparing to celebrate his 33rd birthday, Chad Reed looked pumped for his opening heat. The Australian grabbed 3rd to qualify for the final. But the main event proved a tougher assignment. Reed crashed into his teammate on the first turn and fell back as far as 20th. He eventually fought his way into 9th. to mountain biking, and Rankin Park's Cameron Ivory finished fourth at the National Championships in the cross-country eliminator event behind former world champion Paul van der Ploeg. In AFL, 2 Hunter-bred players were a big part of the Swans' win over Fremantle in the pre-season cup. Craig Bird from Port Stephens was on target. And the news only gets better for young gun Isaac Heaney. The 18-year-old former Cardiff Hawk scored his first goal for Sydney and is now being touted as a bolter for round 1 against Essendon on April 2nd. And finally, 2014 champions Merewether finished 6th at the Kira Team surfing event, with local club Snapper Rocks bringing the title back to the Gold Coast. The Deemer family has a strong history at the NJC Newmarket meeting, with Dad John winning the main race in 1986. This year, Jason will look to take out the $100,000 Provincial Championships qualifier.
Yeah, I've had runners in Group 1 races before, but this is new and exciting, so it'd be great to get 1 or even 2 into the final.
Both of Jason's horses missed out at the Wyong qualifier, but Deemer is hoping for a change of luck on his home track, with 4-year-old Lukey.
He got back from a wide barrier but worked to the line well and finished the race off nice and strong, so drawn better on Wednesday, he should be right in the finish.
While 5-year-old Never Got a Vote will also feature in the field of 15.
He's been very consistent throughout his career. He didn't race until he was a 3-year-old, but he's really come good with age.
The Newmarket will have 8 runners, with Gypsy Diamond the early favourite. Looking to win the race for a 4th time, Gay Waterhouse has entered Woodbine and Countryman in the Group 3 event.
It's one of the city's best coastal properties, the former Newcastle Bowling Club site, and it remains at the centre of a stoush over a proposed function centre and kiosk.
Whatever building goes there should be accessible to all the public, not just by invitation to a function centre.
In one corner, the Friends of King Edward Park.
I've got no objection to a building there, but a plan of management suggested a building there which was in the centre of the site, which allowed the public full access to all the periphery of the land. Here we're going to get a building that dominates the southern boundary and excludes the public from its best views.
In the other corner, Stronach property.
I don't truly believe that public access is the issue here. It's just basically someone not wanting what we've proposed on the site, and public access is there for everyone to see.
Their plans include public walkways, a viewing platform and cafe kiosk.
The 2011 DA approval clearly identifies a publicly accessible pathway to the south of the building, wrapping around the coastline.
It's 2.5 years since the matter first went to the Land and Environment Court. It remains in the hands of a judge.
It's frustrating in that we're not alone. We would get asked on a weekly, if not daily basis, what's happening with the King Edward Headland site.
According to the court today, a decision is still pending.
It's a day Wallsend residents will never forget, and nearly 8 years on from the devastating Pasha Bulka storm, there's still no firm decision on how to flood-proof the suburb. Max McCorkle's store was one that went under. He says rain still puts business owners on edge.
People just run home, run for cover.
Newcastle Council has narrowed the options for flood mitigation down to 4, which it's now taking back to the community. They include removing bridges along a nearby stormwater drain and increasing flow under Minmai Road.
I'm hoping it's just not a warm and fuzzy experience for the community and council.
But with the cheapest option set to cost at least $6 million, there are concerns more time will be spent trying to secure funding from the state government. Member for Wallsend, Sonia Hornery, believes the flood plan's implementation should be a priority.
Whether it's a Liberal or a Labor government, this is about the safety of the people in Wallsend, so it should not matter.
Council says its draft implementation plan will be put to councillors next month, with the final report due by the end of the year. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
It could be anyone's race. Labor's small business owner, the independent with a local government background, or the Liberal committed to building on the outgoing member's work. The three main contenders for Maitland, the fastest growing seat in the Hunter. And with 5 people on average moving to the city every day, Steve Thompson's priority is infrastructure.
More money on infrastructure, finish the roadworks, continue investing in education, start the hospital. The new hospital that's coming for the Lower Hunter. It's going to be a public hospital for public patients, so don't believe the scare campaign.
Jenny Aitchison has been campaigning for 15 months and is hopeful of claiming victory in the safe Liberal seat. Her first local priority, building the new hospital.
Labor has committed and we've got funding for a new public hospital and also to retain the existing public hospital.
At the last election, outgoing member Robin Parker, who only served the one term, claimed more than 40% of the vote. Labor attracted almost 30%, while independent Kelly Tranter secured just over 20%.
Robin came in on the tail end of the big slap in the face for Labor at the last election. For me, it's not about numbers necessarily. We've got, a fair bit of work to do.
Then there's Philip Penfold, who as a Maitland City councillor believes he's got the profile and the practice. Keeping in line with the infrastructure theme this election, a new school is at the top of his list.
We have about 30,000 people in the next 15 years moving in on the west side of Maitland, so there's definitely a need for a primary school there.
But he hasn't always been independent, formerly head of the local Liberal Party branch. He resigned from the party 3 years ago.
I have conservative values, but certainly the government have taken positions on issues in Maitland that I can't support.
To hear from other candidates running for the seat of Maitland, visit the NBN News website. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Five players still facing drug charges, but the Titans today brought them back into the fold.
on the basis of the advice that the best course of action is to allow the players to return and to see what unfolds in court.
The players who missed the first 2 rounds of the season have been allowed to return to training, with Dave Taylor, Greg Bird and Beau Falloon promptly named to take on the Knights this weekend.
It's been difficult for us as a club to have them excluded and not have them available for the start of the season, and we haven't had a win yet.
The Titans denied the 40-0 loss to Penrith had any bearing on the decision.
Last week's result played no role in it whatsoever.
Earlier today, Knights coach Rick Stone was preparing for such an outcome.
We know they can make a bit of a difference if you think back to the Alex McKinnon day and what Dave Taylor did to us, and probably, I think the year before, Greg Bird really hurt us at Hunter Stadium when the Gold Coast beat us as well. Beau Falloon will help him if he gets back at hooker as well.
Meanwhile, after avoiding suspension by taking an early guilty plea, Beau Scott was back at training today and getting on with preparations.
He plays hard and competes hard every week, and I don't think you're going to get too much different this week.
The Knights have been accused of targeting Jonathan Thurston in their clash with the Cowboys, but Stone isn't buying into it, simply stating the team won't change its tactics.
We've got an in-house sort of idea of what we want to stand for and how we want to play every game and how hard we want to compete. I think we've shown a little bit of that in the first 2 weeks, and I'd like to think it's not going to change.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Fresh from winning his second straight Lake Macquarie Sportsperson of the Year award, Cameron McKenzie headed to Columbus, Ohio, hoping to produce an upset.
So I was lucky enough to be one of 15 invites worldwide for the pro deadlift, so it was a pretty big honour to be the only Australian to be invited in history.
His first 2 deadlifts at the Arnold Championships went according to plan, but he failed to complete his third. The 21-year-old was still happy overall.
Leading up to the competition, I travelled for a few weeks beforehand, so that it was a bit of a battle trying to keep my training and diet consistent, but got my first 2 deadlifts in. Unfortunately, I missed my last one, but not everything goes to plan on the day, but it's made me even hungrier.
His focus now turns to the Nationals in Melbourne on April 11. McKenzie will attempt to lift a personal best of 350 kilos in the deadlift, 315 in the squat and bench press 200, a total which would set a new Australian record.